Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. The energy in this room is unbelievable. And that's all coming from you. So, yes, it's indeed a joy to be here because 96 degrees in the Hamptons is a lot better than 96 degrees in New York City. So I want to start today's lesson with a story, a Zen story. And it goes like this. There was an enlightened one living under a tamarind tree who did his devotional meditation every day. The deity known as Naranda, the messenger of the Absolute, who gathers information to keep the Absolute fully informed, came upon the enlightened one and wanted to know what he was doing. His reply was that he was engaged in meditation, could he take a message back to the Absolute, asking him when there will be a meeting between the two. After some time, Narada came back with a reply, but it was rather a bitter one, and he would rather not give it. However, the enlightened one said, "But if there's any reply from the Absolute, my heart would never sink. Don't worry about it. Let me know the answer." Looking at the tamarind tree, Narada said, "This tree has many leaves. And as there are as many leaves on this tree, you will have to wait that same number of years for the Absolute, which is God, to meet you." The enlightened one began to burst into ecstasy and started dancing with bliss, completely forgetting himself. "Why are you dancing? Did you not hear what I said?" asked Narada. "Yes, I heard what you said. For I am not going to count the number of years and the leaves. All that matters is that I have a message from the Absolute, and he is going to meet me. That's what really matters." With that, the Absolute himself appeared and embraced the enlightened one. Narada, who was very disturbed, said, "My lord, I am your messenger. But don't let me look like prove to be a liar. You said you would wait as many years and you didn't even wait an hour." The Absolute replied, "These things are for ordinary men. If there is somebody special, then the question of time and space have to be ignored, and the meeting must be instantaneously." We are all special in the eyes of God. We are all special in the eyes of the Absolute. So when there's a longing for truth and a devotion towards truth and a knowledge of truth, then the union of man and the Absolute will take place instantaneously. And in that instant, the freedom we have been looking for, the freedom that you have been hearing about these past few weeks, will begin. We have all heard the word or the phrase, "Know the truth and it will set you free." Well, I would like to investigate this morning a little bit exactly what this truth is. We all hear about it. And I'm certain our investigation will not take us far from who we are, what we are. We find that inner truth within ourselves, the one and only truth that will set us free. So, I want to start the investigation with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who says, "We lie in the lap of immense intelligence, which makes us receivers of its truth and organs of its activity." So Emerson is telling us the truth is that there is an intelligence in the universe that we are surrounded by. That we are actually lying in the lap of this intelligence, which nourishes us and guides us and supports us and strengthens us. And in this nourishment, we realize then that we are an individualization of this intelligence, of God. Or as Emerson says, organs of its activity, which is activated by our conscious recognition of it. How else could it be? So we're not individual from this immense intelligence because that brings upon duality or separation. We're not. We are an individualization. We individualize it through our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions, and above all, through every word that we speak, believe it or not. We hear a lot of the word recognition at our church, for we cannot know the truth and be free unless we recognize what this truth is. So we not only lie in the lap of this immense intelligence, we are one with it, and we just heard it in our song, in the meditation. It indwells within each and every one of us, and every one of us must be in a conscious recognition of this moment by moment, day by day, minute by minute, 24/7. And that conscious recognition comes from our spiritual practices, our spiritual discipline, whatever that is for you. And whatever that is for you is right for you, right? Do not compare yourself with others, because where you are in your conscious recognition is exactly where you need to be in this moment. And the truth is, it's all consciousness. Another truth would be that consciousness reveals who and what we are. So it's safe to say that the quality of our thinking will reveal the quality of our consciousness, and the quality of our consciousness is going to reveal the quality of our lives. Simple as that. We can only receive this impress of this intelligence through the consciousness that is open and receptive, one that is aligned with peace and harmony, which we all know is the first order of the universe. One that is free from the bondage of limiting thoughts that holds us back in life. And you all know what those thoughts are. You don't need me to tell you what those thoughts are. However, I will tell you that any thought which blocks the infinite intelligence of the divine mind to operate in you, through you, and as you needs to be uprooted, obliterated from your consciousness, okay? There's no time for that. And here's how you do that. Well, first you have to recognize that there's a conscious thought there that's disrupting the peace and the harmony that you work so hard to align yourself with in your meditations, in your spiritual practices. So you have to recognize it, that it's there. And once you recognize it, the first thing you don't want to do is sort of, which I used to do, is beat myself up. Why am I still thinking like that? Why is it still there? I don't understand it. Where did that come from? Don't do that. Just know it's there and know you need to uproot it. Don't be concerned on how it got there. Just say to yourself, this is not the kind of thinking that I'm doing today in my consciousness. This is not who I am. I release that thought out into the universe, let it go, uproot it, and it's gone. Realize how silly, which I do, how silly to think like that anymore after all the practices that I'm doing, all the great work that we've done. And by the way, you do great work. And I know I do great work. And when I was a student studying to become a minister, I was the only one who said, good job, Robert. Good job. You need to do that to yourselves. You need to recognize your growth. That's very important in your spiritual practices. So the moment you dwell upon thoughts that would disrupt the divine nature of our being, we give it power. We don't want to do that. We then become drained of all that great energy, that divine energy. And there are those who love to give these thoughts power and play the role of victim in our lives. We all know one or two of those people. And we pray for them, and if we need to, we release them to their greater good. But the greatest power in your thinking, in your thoughts, is love. And we just heard that in one of our songs today. Love, beauty, peace, joy, that's what should be going on in your mental atmosphere. Thoughts that would shed light upon darkness. And we all know that light overcomes all darkness. When I think I am free from the bondage of limited thinking, I realize that truthfully I'm not totally free. Because these negative thoughts are so ingrained in our subconscious mind, still can only play havoc on our beings on an unconscious level. They're rooted so deep in our subconscious, planted there at a very, very young age. And yes, we can blame our parents. We can blame our siblings. We can blame our spouses. But why waste your time? Take responsibility, uproot them, and release them from your consciousness. Because the more you do these spot releases, whenever those thoughts come, the less they will come. I'm not saying that they're going to stop, but the less they will come, and the less and less before they don't come anymore. Freedom begins, as the founder of religious science, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says, by being alert and alive to the truth. And there is a power in the universe greater than we are, and we can use it. The road of freedom lies not through mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws. Some of these laws we've heard already, that there is but one mind, and we are one with that mind. It is universal, and all things manifest from it. That all is one. There's the law of attraction that knows like energy, attracts like energy. And that's what's happening here. We're all attracting like energy. We could feel it. And then, of course, there's the law of cause and effect, the greatest law, that we are cause to every effect that is going on in our lives. You can't escape that. And since these laws of nature are intelligent, we must deal with them intelligently. And to quote Emerson again, nature stretches out her arms to embrace man, and let his thoughts be of equal nature. Willingly does she follow his steps with the rose and the violet, and bend her lines of grandeur and grace to the decoration of her darling child, and let his thoughts be of equal scope, and the frame will suit the picture. Every time we look at that picture, we will see well beyond to the beauty and the love and the freedom emanating from the depth of our being, or of that darling child, as Emerson says. Using the power for good constructively and intelligently, along with the laws of nature, will lead us onward, upward, and forward to that road that is freedom. We must accept ourselves as vehicles of this power, and to do that takes courage. Yeah, I know. It makes each of us explorers of consciousness, exploring it and discovering consciousness and rediscovering. It requires mental and emotional discipline. It demands a mental diet of right ideas so that our consciousness is nourished with the right type of substance, spirit, energy, power to create for each of us the right kind of world that we want to live in. Freedom begins when we surrender to this power and allow it to lead and guide and direct us in our journey through this thing called life. Freedom begins when we stop interfering with life, a life that is so already complete, whole, and perfect. When we stop feeling that we are the ones that have to do everything. Think about this. Everything we needed in the first 9 months in our lives, we had. We had. So why isn't it true for the next 90 years or so? Why? Because we interfere. We're not trusting the ultimate power for good that supports us, that guides us, that strengthens us. Freedom begins when we begin to enjoy life. When we get to that place where we are not always trying to get somewhere. When we stop striving to be whatever it is we want to be and just be. This is when freedom begins. To quote Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, all things are born of being. Being is born of non-being. And what he means by that is non-being, meaning no attachments, no desires, no wanting, only knowing that everything needed and necessary already exists within each and every one of us. And whatever it is we're looking for, you're looking with. Think about that. Whatever you're looking for, you're looking with. And if you're looking with, you're looking at it. It's right in front of your eyes. However, our attachments, our desires, our wants get in our way of connecting with the true source of our freedom. In The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle says, the joy of being, which is the only true happiness, cannot come to you through any form, possession, achievement, person, or event, not through anything that happens. The joy cannot come to you. It must emanate from you. Okay? It must emanate from your consciousness. And this is one with who we are. When there is no desire, all things are at peace, which of course leads to happiness. Which, by the way, does not come from circumstances and things. Happiness doesn't come from having much. It comes from being much. Which, by the way, is who we are. By being much, okay? And it is inevitable that if we're being much, much happiness will come to us, and above all, freedom. We have to be careful, though, of our friend called the ego. And it is our friend because it keeps us out of harm's way. However, it likes to step up to this plate in this game of life, revealing to us that who we are is what we have. That what I do is who I am. So we then begin to believe that my success, my value, my worth as a human being is based upon what I've accomplished. It is not. It is based on how you or I can serve the universe with all that I have accomplished. It is then when we begin to think that all things that I really want for myself, I want for others. And once we move from the ego mind, once we move from a sense of entitlement, we move to a sense of humility. Humility being a very important virtue in life. It releases the ego self and allows us to be very open and receptive to the intelligence around us and in us. A great man is always willing to be little. But let me tell you this. We must not act little so others can act big. That's not humility. Humility is an essential virtue that must exist in a person for all other virtues to emerge. To quote Emerson once again, he says, it is a willingness to get that bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits, that devoted nothingness being the ego. Once we do this, we realize that we are entitled to nothing, and when we do this, we free ourselves from the ego-speaking mind that just can't get enough, that continues to pull us in every which direction, because what it wants now. So let us know that the ego is a false self, and when we defend it, when we are defending it, we are defending an illusion. We are defending something or someone who we really are not. Your authentic self is way beyond the ego. And there lies freedom. Okay? So when you are operating out of the only part of yourself, spirit, God, individualization of God, it's authentic. Bliss is yours. Freedom is yours. And getting back to the truth, I will say that the fundamental truth is that we must be from where we came from. We came from God. We came from the divine. We are divinity. We are divine. So when we come into this recognition, we then shift our thoughts about how I could offer, how I can serve. And then our intention is off ourselves and more about giving. And that's what we're here to do, to give of the love of God. That's our purpose. And as we give of our time, our talent, our treasures, the universe will respond to us twofold, tenfold, hundredfold. We become the divine beneficiaries of a universe that is always saying yes. Remember that. The universe is always saying yes as long as we are giving permission for it to open up in our lives. Whatever we are looking for in our lives, we know that it is already there for us. It will show up when and where it is needed, for it is always within our reach. We begin to live in a process of trusting the infinite source, God, where it is taking us. We begin to detach from the outcome, and the detachment allows us to no longer be fighting it, just to be allowing it. Freedom. We then allow things to just come to us. We no longer are the person making things happen. We're now the person allowing things to just show up in our lives. The fight is gone, and that's true freedom. So if we want to see the door open up in our lives to a life of freedom and ease, we have to detach ourselves from the ego, what the ego says, and live from the very core and the very depth of our being, the authentic self, the truth, where we find the secret place, the sacred place, where we just were in meditation, that divine space we call spirit. And to quote Milton Berle, if you don't have a door, build one. With virtues such as reverence for all life, which really is respect for all life. With sincerity and honesty, opening up in your consciousness, being gentle and kind. Support and serving humanity. To touch someone's life is more valuable than anything we can touch, taste, smell, feel, or hear. To do this, your door will certainly be in the making. And your life will become a life of living these virtues. So I haven't seen the 5-minute sign yet, but I am going to be closing. So in closing, I would like to refer to an article that was in the New York Times a few months ago about a man who spent 45 years in prison, which he spent nearly all that time in a 50-square-foot cell. And you could be sure that when someone is in a cell for 4 decades, you could be sure he measures things differently. Time, certainly, but also freedom. He was asked to recall his last trip as a free man at the age of 22 on the run to New York, and his response was, he did not remember being on the run as a feeling of freedom. True freedom, he discovered after years of reading. He was quoted as saying, when I began to understand who I was, I then considered myself a free man. He went on to say that no matter how much concrete they used to hold me in a particular place, they couldn't stop my mind. The mind is our most priceless possession, the most powerful tool which we will ever possess. In fact, it is the only tool we need to live a life of freedom, in freedom and as freedom. That's why we need to treat the mind spiritually. When we are told that we are made in the image and likeness of the infinite mind, that the one infinite mind operates in, through, and around us, this is really a way of saying that there's a magnificence possible to the individual who individualizes that mind. My mission is to awaken that spiritual magnificence, not only in myself, but to all those that come into the walks of my life who are asking for this revelation, either knowingly or unknowingly. You must be in an open and receptive mind for this awakening to take place, and when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Trust that. So, we need to take our attentions off the world, off our individual world, off the collective world, and begin to explore the depths of our very own mind. We're told that the kingdom of heaven is within man, and we all know that heaven and hell are simply just states of consciousness. So we explore our interior self, which is consciousness, being revealed in all its perfection and all its wonderment. We begin to move deeper within ourselves, unfolding a spiritual confidence and a spiritual integrity, which really does frame our life's picture with grandeur and grace, allowing each of us to walk with great dignity and, above all, great freedom and ease. This, I believe, is knowing the truth that will set you free. This freedom is the divine plan for each and every one of us. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. That was fun. Thank you.